All right, so we're going to get started with some examples of some, basically looks like some concepts or some conceptual ideas related to process costing. Okay, so for kind of an introductory level managerial accounting class, accounting 2, that sort of thing. Okay. All right, so looks like our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 first questions are going to be all multiple choice. I'm sorry, not multiple choice, true, false. So starting right up here at the top of the page, let's just get started. It says, true or false, the FIFO method of process costing is simpler than the average cost method. Well, we talked about this briefly in the PowerPoint video, and what we said was actually that average cost was easy. FIFO is more accurate. And I'm going to put a little slash here. Let's see here. Better for decisions. Okay. So it is not simpler. It is more complex, but we get out of that increased accuracy and is better for decision making for our managerial accountant. So this is going to end up being a false statement. All right. If you're not in one of the classes and you're watching this, do understand that we're going to be approaching everything from a FIFO perspective when it comes to process costing. You may be somewhere that looks at the average cost method or the weighted average method. That is easier to do, so you're catching a break in that regard. But it could throw you off some when we get into some of the calculation type questions that we're going to look at a little bit later. All right? Okay. So right here, the process cost accounting system records. I'm sorry, let me start over. A process cost accounting system records all actual factory overhead costs directly in the work in process account. So we do know that overhead costs, well, hopefully we know that overhead costs initially are part of work in process. So at first glance, this may appear to be a true statement. However, the problem here is with the word actual. What we actually want to do, no pun intended, is change this word to applied. And if we were to read this sentence the exact same way, all applied factory overhead, then it would be true. But actual overhead, we're not doing that because we're using what's called normal costing, not actual costing. Okay, and really, regardless of where you may go to school, I'm quite certain that you'll be using normal costing rather than actual costing. So this part will be the same, and so that makes this a false statement. Every word was right, or it was okay, except for when they used the word actual. It needed to say applied. All right. Third question here says the entry to transfer goods in process from Department X to Department Y includes a debit to work in process Department X. Well, the work in process in Department X was initially a debit, but what we would actually see here without using any journal entries is we would see we're transferring out from Department X and to Department Y. So that's going to be our debit actually, and then Department X, probably should have used a different letter than X for my fake numbers here. So this would actually be a credit to Department X and a debit to Department Y because the goods are going from Department X and they're going to Department Y. So again, this is another false statement. We've had 3 in a row. Let's see what we have here. Maybe we can break the trend. Direct materials, direct labor, and factory overhead are assigned to each manufacturing process in a process costing system. So we have both materials. We have materials added at some point in the process, not necessarily to each department, but we could have it. We could have direct materials added in each department. We will have direct labor and factory overhead. So these things are going to flow. Materials, direct labor, factory overhead are going to go into work in process for the first department. Call that department 1. And then they're going to go into department 2, in which case we might add additional direct materials. We will add direct labor and factory overhead for each department. So this is actually a true statement. Go back. You have access to the PowerPoint video, which you should, on this, and we had 2 examples. One was for ice cream, and the other one was for vitamins. So those examples are there, and then we also had another slide, I believe it was slide 6, that showed the entire process. Okay, but this is a true statement. In a process costing system, costs flow into finished goods only from the work in process inventory of the last manufacturing process. So we have to be very, very careful here. I really do not care for the word only right here. I would prefer the word after. Okay, but we think about this right here. Let's see it right here. The work in process for Department 1, these costs are moving into Department 2. Now that doesn't mean that they're Department 2's costs, and I realize that my handwriting is atrocious. So let's see if we can make something halfway legible. Department, and you're just going to have to take my word for it. That says department, or it's abbreviated. So we might have, let's just say that we only had 2 departments, Department 1 and Department 2. And then, let's, like using the ice cream example, we had the mixing department was our Department 1, and then the packaging department was Department 2. When we're finished here, at this point in time, we would go into finished goods. Okay, so the way this reads, it almost reads as if we're only going to count Department 2's cost, but that's not true, because these costs from Department 1 are over here in Department 2 as total product costs. And when we're done and we move this into finished goods, we're capturing the cost for both of these departments. So this is actually going to be a true statement. Kind of explained it with this example in the previous question, but nonetheless, true statement. And look up at the other example to maybe help you out a little bit. Okay. Multiple choice question says, in process cost accounting, the costs of direct materials and direct labor are charged directly to, okay, so if we really need to make sure we know this. Looking back up here, Department 1, Department 2, so probably going to have the words department or departments somewhere here. We have that in 2 of the choices. This is process costing. Our answer is going to be B. Okay. Last question for this video right here. It says, in a process cost system, the cost of completed production in Department A is transferred to Department B by which of the following entries? Well, we looked at that already back here. It's just that we were calling it Department X and Department Y. So to answer this question, we say, okay, which department is losing work in process, basically, and which department is gaining work in process? And so it says, Well, transferred to. So all of our costs from Department A are being transferred to Department B. So Department B asset value is going up. Debit work in process, which is an inventory account, an asset. So this looks good. And credit work in process, Department A. And this is going to end up being the correct answer. We don't even have to go any further. Do make sure that you understand why this is true. Okay, if you don't understand why it's true, me circling A is not going to help you one bit. All right, we'll pick up with another video immediately.